He was a backup quarterback for the Green Bay Packers in 2021. He is Kurt Benkert. Kurt, thank you so much for doing this, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So when I started getting ready for this interview, it was hard for me to believe that you were only here for one season. Like I thought he was here for at least 2 years, maybe
Crazy.
three, but it was only one season in Green Bay.
Yeah, it was like 1 year and 1 or 2 months, and that was it. Pretty crazy how fast it went by and how much happened in 1 year.
How how would you try to explain the connection that you had with the Packers fan base?
Oh man, that's a tough one. The way that I describe it is that when I got into Green Bay before I was even signed, when I had my rookie minicamp tryout as a veteran, I went into it with zero expectations and this feeling that if I were to be there, I was going to experience it as a fan that just happened to play on the team. And that was how I went about it, because Green Bay is like, it's that one place in the NFL that has the history. It has everything about it that's like this mystical, magical place. And I wanted to experience that from a fan's point of view. So when I got there, I was driving around town, doing all the stuff, kind of seeing everything. When my family got there, we went and did all the tourist type stuff and really just try to dive into the community and feel what it was like to be a part of that.
At what point do you think the fan base kind of grabbed you the way they did, that you became a fan favorite that I would say few backup quarterbacks get to experience?
Yeah, I would say the moment that I really, really felt it was, it kind of had led up throughout the offseason and throughout preseason and stuff, but I would say really it was it was on Twitter. Aaron, God, Florio, the guy from
Pro Football Talk.
yes, he had said something about Aaron being a bad teammate and being selfish and all of that. And I kind of like, I didn't kind of, I very much outwardly stood
Very
up for him
directly.
directly on Twitter about that, and called him out on it. And then it kind of proceeded with, or after that came a few other back and forths that were very memey. And I wasn't really holding back any longer. And I think at that point, I think that's when it really started resonating with people that like I was just down to ride for the team, like regardless. I did not care. I got a lot of backlash within the building about it. Just kind of like, be quiet, don't really put yourself out there, like don't draw attention to us. But Aaron really appreciated that I kind of put myself out there for him.
Well, I got to imagine that's also what probably helped endear you to the fan base. The fact that not just did you stand up for Aaron Rodgers, but you mentioned some of the memes, your personality that was put out there for the fan base to see as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I wear my heart on my sleeve, very candidly, and I think people know like what I feel about certain situations. Like I don't really sugarcoat things. If I'm passionate about something, I'm just gonna let it be very well known that I'm passionate about it. And defending a teammate that was very good to me in the public light, I was really passionate about at that time. And I think that kind of started it. And then I ended up getting like the kneel downs at the end of the season, and I made a meme out of that. And I think I just was able to give a little bit of insight into like what is it like being a Packer, like behind closed doors, but like give a little more insight than fans have typically been used to seeing throughout the course of a season.
I do want to get to that kneel down because I think that was a tremendous Twitter moment that you put out there.
Yeah.
But I do want to back up. So you come in, you go through the rookie, veteran training camp, and you're not sure what's going to happen. Walk me through then. You're like you said, you're trying to walk through it and try to just soak everything in that you can. When the Packers approach you to then actually come to real training camp, what was that like?
Yeah. So I was at home in Cape Coral, Florida at the time. That's where we lived. And I was just gaming competitively. That's like what I do outside of football. And so I actually think I was playing in a Call of Duty tournament when my agent called me and he said, "Hey, there's two teams that want to invite you to the rookie mini camps as a veteran. Come and kind of compete, see where it ends up. One's the Cleveland Browns and one is the Green Bay Packers. Cleveland's got a little easier room, in my opinion, from my agent's perspective, to go in and kind of like be somebody there." We said, but Green Bay is a really interesting opportunity. And if you can find a way to stick there, I think you'd really enjoy that the most. And knowing me, I was just like, all right, going to Green Bay, kind of didn't really think twice. And so I went for the tryout, basically, went through it, was competing with another guy. And I was walking off the field, about to go, put my cleats up, pack up, go back on the flight. And Gooch stopped me and was like, "Hey man, we loved what you did this weekend. Like, think you got a lot of talent. I loved you coming out of college. Was kind of hoping to be able to get you at some point. And we'd love to bring you upstairs and sign you." So that was like where it all happened. And then I I went through OTAs behind Blake Bortles and Jordan Love. Aaron wasn't there at the time. And I was like, all right, well, I'm not getting any reps throughout like the 8 weeks or whatever I was there. Wasn't really expecting much when training camp came around. I was just hoping to find a way onto the practice squad because I knew I'd be competing with Blake. And then, once I got back for training camp, we all got there, and then I saw Blake walking out of the building, and I'm like, it's kind of weird. And I had found out that they cut him when we all passed our physicals, and they were like, look, we're going to give you an opportunity to play throughout preseason as the 3. You won't get a lot of reps because Jordan's going to be the guy we're trying to get sped up, with his development, but just be ready. And then one thing led to another, and I ended up getting a few opportunities here and there, but that's kind of how it all worked out.
When you were coming out of college, how much you mentioned the competitive gaming thing, but and you were with the Falcons and practice squad and doing that for 2018, 19, 20 before you came to Green Bay. What were your expectations coming out of college in terms of pursuing a professional football career?
I've always believed in myself talent-wise. It was always like, can I get caught up to the speed of the game, and can I get caught up with the terminology? Because in college, I wasn't exposed to a lot of it. And it wasn't really so much that I wasn't able to learn it. I just had not been exposed to how is football like taught at the professional level, like what's the terminology. Like I had such a big game of catch up that I had to play because I had never seen a lot of it before. Like I did not play in a pro system. I didn't really play in even a spread system. It was just a unique situation. So for me, it was like, all right, how quickly can I get caught up, have enough talent to give people the reason to keep me to stick around until I get caught up. And then from there, it was just about getting an opportunity. So I was kind of expected to go anywhere from like 4th to 7th round. There was like a huge range. My draft class was in 2018, there was 5 guys taken in the first round. So, it was like a pretty wild year to come out as a quarterback. And, like as an undrafted guy, you're just hoping to make it year to year. So to look back and be 5 years into it, I would say it was a win, even though like for me as a competitor, I don't look at my career as like it was a win, but on paper it was. 2.5 years is kind of the threshold for most guys, and I was able to make 5. But yeah, I think as a competitor, you always look and expect that you're going to get more than that.
So now you're in Green Bay and you get the opportunity. You mentioned the kneel down earlier. You get the opportunity to come in a game. You take 2 kneel downs. Walk us through that. And then the tweet that you also sent after the game.
So earlier, way back before that, earlier in the day, kind of throughout the week, Aaron was telling me, look, man, I'm going to get you in the game. Like you're going to get some time. Like I'm going to make sure that you get in this game. And so we were beating them pretty well. Fourth quarter rolls around.
Chicago Bears, by the way. This was a game against the Chicago Bears. I think that's worth mentioning.
That's worth mentioning. And Aaron made it very clear that he was going to do everything he can to get me in the game. He knew it was like a big deal for me. And we get to the fourth quarter. I think there's like 7 minutes left, and the Bears are kind of getting stopped by our defense. And then something happens, and they like score a touchdown, or they get in field goal range. Something happens to where it's no longer a 3-score game or above that threshold where Matt's going to put in the backup. And so like me and him are looking at each other like, dude, like what the, like really, like that just happened. Like we had it in the bag for me to go in and actually get some real plays in the fourth quarter. And then he has to go back out. I don't know if we score a field goal, touchdown. I can't really remember. But then we get to the point where the Bears have the ball with like, I think a minute left, and Justin Fields gets hit. It's kind of thrown high, tipped, interception. And then, like get a chance to go in and kneel it down. And at that point, I don't really remember what the score was, but it wasn't really like
I think it was 45-30.
So it was still technically a 2-score game, which like coaches still want their starter in for that. And Aaron was like, no, Matt, like he's going in, he's taking the kneel downs. Like it's just happening. He's getting in the game. So they both kind of agreed to it, sent me out there. I took my 2 kneel downs for -1 yard. And my whole objective was to lose the least amount of rushing yards as possible, so we didn't ruin the average. So that was a very clear message of like, look, we're not going to take these -2 yard rushes. Like, don't mess up our average, Kurt. So I went in and did the job.
So after the game, you take the picture. It's up on, it was on Twitter, and I think it made its rounds after the game because you got a little bit of it wasn't necessarily a grass stain. I think it was more of the paint stain.
Yeah.
Yeah, right on your knee,
Yeah,
Walk us
so
through
I'm
that.
walking back to my locker. My locker as a practice squad player is in this like little cubby section of the main locker room. So I'm not like in with the other guys. And I'm sitting down there and I'm like, oh, I'm back in the practice. Like it's over, back in practice squad. Like it's not gonna be dressing next week. And I look down and I got white paint on my knee. And I was like, of course I'm gonna tweet about something after the game. That's just who I am. Like I love the kind of bring people along with it. And I was like, damn, white paint on my knee, like that's pretty cool. Like looking down, I wanted to remember that moment. But like, yeah, it took me 5 years to get a play and it was a kneel down, but I did it. And yeah, so I just took that picture, wrote W, and the rest was definitely history.
Given the way that you defended Aaron online earlier in the year, did you feel did that cross your mind at all that you felt vindicated in stepping up and sticking up for him because then he fought for you to get in
Yeah,
to
he's
that game?
all like for only have been friends with him that season, like starting, I mean, not even, I mean, I actually met him in August for training camp. So it wasn't like I met him back in May and had OTAs together. We got close quick and he appreciated how I go about things, kind of that I do have life outside of football and things that I'm into and that I'm like happy to share those things and I'm not ball 24/7. And so I think he appreciated that about me. And then, yeah, once I defended him, it was like, all right, dude, I got you. Like he was going to look out for me any way that he could. Again, like at the time, I didn't know that that's what was going to come from it. I just saw some wrong stuff and I was like, dude, this is like, I'm tired of people dragging his name already as like COVID year and like all that BS. But like that one just kind of like took it a step further to bringing in teammates, quote, opinions into it. And I was just going to squash that as soon as possible. But yeah, he loved it. He appreciated it. Not everyone in the building, like I said, loved that I was as outspoken, but I would do it again.
Where who gave you the backlash? Because you also had a tweet earlier this offseason when somebody online had suggested, oh, what if we bring Kurt Benkert back to be the backup for
Yeah.
Jordan Love? And you had kind of mentioned that Goody is somebody who
Yeah.
you appreciated in your time in Green Bay, but there are other people in the building that didn't necessarily appreciate your humor and your
Yeah,
memes.
I would rather not. I would rather not say, but I think
Sure.
people could read between the lines probably. Some people's personalities mesh with mine, and others did not. And like as a third string guy, like you pretty much have to be like the puppy. Like if you're just gonna have to, just safe to say, like you're gonna have to kiss ass as much as possible to stick around. And I just was at the point where I'm like, I'm just like I'm me. Like some of the guys like absolutely love me. Some people were like, oh, it's probably annoying, but um, I don't know. I mean, I'm just not. I'm just me. So it is what it is.
What was it like being in the XFL this
Oh
year?
man, it was a blur. I was there for 13 days. Got sent home pretty quick. It was cool though. Like you got to be with a group of guys that like really like were scrapping and clawing to get back to the league or just even to make a paycheck playing football. Like that's really what I'd say 80% of the guys were there to do. Like try to just not work a regular job, play football, make a lot of like not a lot of money, but make a good chunk of money in a short period of time. And that's like what their goal was. And so it definitely had this like JUCO feel to it because like we were in a random high school stadium for practice. Like the locker room was a random high school locker room. There were no like real like hot tubs or any like the recovery type stuff. So that was kind of the tough part. But yeah, and then the rules, man, the rules kind of got me a little bit. There's no protection for the quarterbacks, clearly. I fractured my ribs in like one drive of starting. So, I mean, I think the thing that got me the most was that there is definitely a hit out on the quarterbacks. I mean, like just psychologically, if you knock the quarterback out, you probably have a better chance of winning the game. And if you win the game, everyone on the team gets $1,000 win bonus. So like, do the math. And there's what's the worst that happens if you have a late hit? 15 yards. There's no fine. There's no like suspension. Like it's definitely like more backyard football. It kind of felt like the longest yard. Like honestly, it felt like I was in the longest yard, just a little, but not in jail. Yeah. But it was fun. Like it was fun though. Like,
How?
dude, I was the guy. Like I
Yeah.
was starting. I was the guy. Like I had plays in for me. Um, but yeah, if I had gotten there at the beginning of the season and had a training camp to like install what I feel most comfortable with, it would have been a different situation. Plus, the team that I went to, they'd lost all 5 of their starting offensive linemen. So it was like it was tough, you know?
The San Antonio
Yep.
Brahmas, by the way, the team that Kurt was playing for. Is it something that you would be open to, or are you still actively trying to find your way to a training
Yeah,
camp this fall?
honestly, I'm just taking it day by day. I'm making sure that I'm healthy, my body's good. I'm growing a bunch of things outside of football business wise. My life looks a lot different than it did 2 years ago. I've been really busy in building products, consulting, and advising for a few companies. And then I have a lot going on like with the social media side and gaming. So I'm not closing any doors, but I'm also not like begging for anything. I'm just living my life, enjoying my time with my family, building businesses, and yeah, we'll see what happens. But if I'm not on a team this year, I'm definitely diving into the media side of things in football and going to try to be a different perspective of a voice throughout the NFL season.
So you had mentioned the gaming earlier. Let's go ahead
Yeah,
and dive into that. What? How did you get into
yeah.
esports? How did you get into? Because you've received money for
Yeah.
gaming. I feel comfortable calling you a
Yeah,
professional
I'm
gamer.
on paper a professional gamer. I've won both tournaments that I was invited to, tournaments that I've had to qualify for. Um, yeah, I'm good at first person shooters, definitely above average. And yeah, I started playing Call of Duty competitively as a kid when I was 12 ish. I think I was 12 or 13. And there was a website called Game Battles that you would have to get like a group of friends with. You would make a team. You would then like do head-to-head matches versus other people that were doing private matches on a team, and you'd like rank higher on the ladder, and you'd basically chase that number one spot in each season. Very similar to, I mean, like probably AAU basketball maybe, um, but it was gaming, and I was playing Call of Duty. So when I went to college, I sold my Xbox and I didn't play. I was just all football all the time. And then my senior year, I had one class in grad school because I had set my schedule up that way so that my senior year I had a lot more time. And I got an Xbox and Fortnite had just come out. So started playing, kind of getting back into it. Then transition a little bit further. 2019 rolls around. That's my second year in the league. And I get injured in preseason and I'm out for the year. So that was like my first chance to like really dive into like the streaming side and like competitive and like outward facing, telling people what I was doing. And then COVID was immediately after that. So I had this 2 year stretch of like outside of football, like competing, streaming, getting sponsors, doing tournaments, like all of that for 2 years. That was just all I did outside of football. These guys were traveling, doing all these other things. I was gaming competitively. And so one thing led to another. Got signed to a pro team, and it's just like now I'm doing consulting and advising with companies that want to activate within the space that gamers are in. So been able to learn the whole ecosystem, the whole industry, how it works, how people make money, how people try to do campaigns, all that good stuff.
So how active are you? Space Station was the team
Yeah.
that signed you, correct? So how active within them are you
I
still?
still so my role with them is quote as a content creator, but I'm really more of a business partner at this point. So I was signed over a year ago as a content creator. Now I'm a business partner. They have the Space Station Gaming is just a gaming team, but the actual parent company of Space Station has like 16 different companies or so underneath the umbrella where gaming is just one of them. So they have an animation studio, like a production team, events team. Um, they have an investing arm that does like early startup investing. So I'm well tied into everything that they're doing. Actually, was just able to invest in a company that they shot an email about last week. So like, gaming is like the front facing marketing, like the wow thing of the company, but everything else is very service and product based. So yeah, that's kind of like the work that I do outside of football. It seems as if this dude's just playing video games, but like I actually play very little video games nowadays. It's way more business and product based.
Well, let's say Space Station needed you to play in a tournament or a game. What's the
Yeah.
go to? Like, what's the best game that you could just jump right back into and not miss
I
a
would
beat?
say Call of Duty or Zero Build Fortnite. And then if they needed me to play in Halo, I would need probably like 2 to 3 weeks of like practicing with the pro team to be a support player. So Halo Infinite.
What? So you say Halo as a support player? Like, I have no idea what that
Yeah.
means, Kurt. Can you try to explain
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
me what exactly
So
that
I'm
means?
a above average Halo player. If you're playing Halo competitively, you're on a team of four, and there's different objectives. Some are capture the flag, some are just deathmatch, and there's like a few other like King of the Hill type stuff. So if I was playing, like I would go in and they would not expect me to be like the top player that's getting the most elims or like leading the team. I would very much be a role player, like as if you're playing football, I would be a receiver that's just like, tell me what route I got versus, hey, like I'm going to be like the quarterback calling plays. So I could very much go in and just be like, hey, teach me for 3 weeks, hold these angles on these maps. These are the plays. Because when you play competitive gaming, especially when it's not like a battle royale, an open map, everything is very much play based. And that's actually what got me hooked into Call of Duty way back in the day. Me and my friends, we would have these like Excel spreadsheets of each map and each of our basically our strats or plays that we'd have on each map, depending on which side we were spawning on. It's like that's what got me into gaming at the very beginning of it all. It was an extension of football for me mentally in a different field.
So one of the other things that I've seen you've been active on with your YouTube page, with your website,
Yeah.
is Madden. Like in terms of teaching people more about football and
Yeah.
using Madden as, instead of like regular NFL film, like you've got this Madden, a play, and you can kind of
Yeah.
walk people through it. How how beneficial do you feel that's been being able to use Madden to try to help make some of those
Yeah.
connections with fans who want to learn
It's
more about
been
football?
it's been amazing, and honestly, what sparked that for me was this idea. We actually talked about this in our quarterback room in Green Bay. Teams around the league have been hiring Madden players as consultants for game management, and like that kind of started a few years back. But if you think about it, like the time clock, when to use timeouts, all that good stuff, Madden players actually have more time on task for those specific moments because they play 10, 20, 30 games a day in simulation, where NFL coaches only have 18 or 17 games a season that they're doing that for. And yeah, you have practice, but like you're not in like a situation where you're like you actually haven't been in those game situations as many times as a Madden player has in simulation, which is weird to think, but I'm like, it actually makes sense. And
Makes
so what I've
sense.
thought is people really resonate with Madden a little bit more than even watching the game. Like the way that you see the Madden game is from back to front. You see it from the offense's perspective, and people are used to seeing that. And people have probably seen more football, most people, from back to front through playing Madden than probably even watching football in a game. And so I wanted to start breaking down those layers of like, hey, I can actually take more than 40 seconds on a play clock, or more than really, you really only see like the last 10 seconds of a play setup when you're in like on TV watching it, as opposed to Madden. And I could break it down and slow things down and say, hey, look, this is what we're thinking. This is why we're calling this play. This is the key defender that we're looking at. And it kind of shows that you don't need to know everything that's going on, but you can just start looking at individual defenders and break down the game and make it a little simpler for yourself.
You also on your website have a number of 101 series. If you go to kurtbenkert.com, what are some of those series and how can fans get
Yeah,
involved with that?
so again, I got released from the 49ers and I started writing. I just took all my old notes. I had a few extra months left in the season and I wasn't like tapped out of football at that time. And so I started writing. I started with, so I have three books basically in a bundle, NFL 101, Coverages 101, and Quarterback 101. And NFL 101 literally breaks down every last piece of terminology, personnel, kind of the breakdown of the game, how it's taught when you first enter the door as a rookie in the NFL season. Because when you enter, they assume you know nothing and they teach you the basics start to finish. And I'm like, wow, I wish I had that like 4 years ago. But for some reason, that doesn't really exist and it's not presented that way. So I went and I wrote that guide as if I were a rookie entering the NFL. Like, give me this 3 months before I walk in the door so I'm not like hit in the face by all this information. That's how I wrote that. And then the other one, Coverages 101, is basically all the basic coverages that are run in the NFL and the few variations and what beats them, what they're good for, what different leverages matter. Like when you're looking at them, how can you tell one from the other? And so I broke that down in a really quick guide. And then the last one is quarterbacks. And this is one like I really wish I had, but it talks about how footwork marries to timing of routes. And it's very like lower body focused, but it'll actually allow fans to see the game, knowing what the quarterbacks are being taught and like, are they playing in rhythm? Are they on time? Do they use the right footwork for the right route as it is on paper? And so for me, it's good for young quarterbacks and coaches to kind of break down the game from like how you should play the NFL position or the NFL quarterback position, but also for fans, you can kind of watch the game and realize, oh, like that's why he's taking a 5-step drop because the route's a little bit deeper. That's why he hitched and why he didn't. And oh, he's resetting because this is a backside route that's more like of a flat route. So it just kind of breaks down like the why a little bit more of why quarterbacks play the way they do and what they're being asked to do from coaches. So you can kind of judge their play with a little bit of a different lens than normal.
Well, this is a podcast that's in the state of Wisconsin,
Yes.
Kurt. And as the Packers fans move on with Jordan Love, I feel it's like my legal obligation. I could get fined by the government if I don't
Yeah.
ask your opinion of Jordan Love and how you feel he could play for the Packers in
Oh, I'm so
2023.
excited to watch him play. I think he's talented. I think the offense is going to look way different, which I don't think anybody shouldn't expect. They're not going to ask him to be Aaron Rodgers. They're not going to ask him to be Brett Favre. They're going to probably take the first 8 games or so and try to fit him into the system that LaFleur used to run, the kind of Tennessee version of it, where it's very, honestly, it's very McVay-ish, you know. I could see them doing a little bit more of that stuff. And then as he has things that he shows on film that he's really good at, he starts to excel at, the coaches can tell that he likes. I think you'll start seeing the offense being catered towards those abilities that show out in the game as the season comes to a close. But yeah, I think they're going to be competitive. I think Jordan's going to be a good player. And I'm excited to see that group of young guys come and just go and play ball. Like the expectations are low, right? So I think they can go out and play free and do what they can do to win games.
I'll get you out of here on
Yeah.
this, Kurt. What message do you want to give to Packers
Oh
fans?
man. I just want to say like a sincere thank you just for how you took me in, like how you treated me, my family, and just kind of that warm like Wisconsin love that we felt while we were there. And even now that we're not there, it's super appreciated and it does not go unnoticed. And yeah, I just appreciate all the support and what I've done and what I'm doing going forward.
Yeah, Kurt, certainly appreciate the time. Best of luck in all the different endeavors that you have yourself in outside of
Thank you. I
football, man.
appreciate it.